Alderman Glab,
Here.
Alderman Santi,
Here.
Alderman McClatchy,
Here.
Alderwoman Bassey. Here. Alderman Davis,
Here.
Alderman Cook,
Here.
Alderwoman Miller. Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda this evening is public comment. John Adams. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment at this time? All right, see none. Moving on to the promotion ceremony. Chief Burke will be handling the promotion ceremony for the lead telecommunicators. Chief, the floor is yours.
I don't know which way to stand. It's kind of both ways, so I'm going to kind of stand sideways. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for giving me the opportunity to recognize these promotions in front of City Council. This is probably one of the best things I get to do as a Chief of Police, is being able to promote people to see the next step in their career grow. So I'm super excited to be able to promote 3 people tonight in front of City Council, Tracy McNamara, Farrah Sikovich, and Eileen Beidelman. I want to call up Tracy first. Ooh, I got an echo. Tracy, come on up. Where you at? For those of you that don't know Tracy, Tracy's been with us for almost 21 years. So that's a milestone as it is. She's been through us through the thick and thin when we were just a small, tiny little dispatch center, and to see us grow. What some of you may or may not know, obviously, is we started out as the McHenry Dispatch Center, where we were dispatching for ourselves, McHenry Fire Department, and we always included Johnsburg because it's Johnsburg. Due to forced consolidation that took effect in July of 2017, we were selected to stay open, and we grew as a dispatch center. We grew to the point where we now dispatch for 16 different fire and police agencies, and on most years we answer more 911 calls than any other dispatch center in the county. The quality of what our dispatchers do has changed so much over the years, and I always go in there, and every single time I'm amazed about what they do. They sit in this desk that goes up and down and does all these bells and whistles, and it has things like 20 monitors. I think it's really 9. But they do 5 things at once. And they always use the phrase, Jenny always uses the phrase split ear. It's remarkable to watch them listen to somebody in one ear and then listen to somebody else in another ear, 2 different things at the same time. It's just, I wholeheartedly will tell you I can't do this job, but I have the utmost respect for it. In 2017, we created lead telecommunicator positions when we grew, and that puts a supervisor on each of our 4 shifts. And for tonight, we're promoting 3 new people to fill 3 of those vacancies for those 3 of those 4 shifts. So Tracy's here, and I think she wants her son, Hayden, to come on up here, right? Hayden, where you at? Come on up here. Okay, so let me start just by reading this to you. This is a certificate of promotion presented to Emergency 911 telecommunicator Tracy McNamara on the 7th day of April, 2025. In recognition of your dedication, experience, performance, and selfless service to others, I hereby promote you to the position of lead 911 telecommunicator. Congratulations. This is for you. You get to pin your mouth there, John. This is for you too. Good luck. Maybe it will get you out of a speeding ticket one day, maybe it won't. Congratulations. Farrah, where you at? There you are. Come on up. For those of you that don't know Farrah, she's been with us for just over 2 years, but she came to us from another dispatch center, and we stole her, basically. We like to steal the talent. So she comes to us with multiple years of experience before she came here, and she has quickly excelled in all of the roles that we have given her since she started here. And so we're super excited to be able to promote you too, Farrah. And Farrah, I believe your son Jameson is here. Where you at, Jameson? Come on up, buddy. Okay, you want to stand right there? Okay. Farah, this certificate of promotion is presented to you, Emergency 911 telecommunicator Farah Sikovich, on the 7th day of April 2025. In recognition of your dedication, experience, performance, and selfless service to others, I hereby promote you to the position of lead 911 telecommunicator.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You think you can get that honor okay? All right.
You ready? You're just gonna stick it in the hole, okay? You won't hurt me, I promise. Okay, you ready? Yeah, go ahead, put it in there. Perfect. And then we'll just slide it through. Let's see, Mommy did it? Maybe. Maybe. There we go. And then just clasp it like that. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, Eileen, where you at? Come on up. Eileen Bioman has been with us for almost 6 years now. You have an anniversary coming up, I believe, in May. And tonight here is Michael, your boyfriend, coming up here to pin your badge on. Michael, where you at? Come on up. Okay. Eileen, this certificate of promotion is presented to you, the Emergency 911 telecommunicator, on the 7th day of April 2025. In recognition of your dedication, experience, performance, and selfless service to others, I hereby promote you to the position of lead 911 telecommunicator. Congratulations. Do with it however you please.
Thank you.
Congratulations. For everybody that came out for the promotional ceremonies, thank you so much. Your support speaks volumes into what we do as a profession and to these 3 individuals who are getting this promotion tonight. I would invite you all to stay. It's an amazing city council meeting. But if you exit these doors this way to the north, you will find a nice cake reception for all of you. And if you feel like you want to come back, we're going over the budget tonight, so you're more than welcome. Our team coffee is off to the, just follow Ashley through the doors. Thank you again for everybody coming. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
You're gonna propose at the council?
Go ahead. Sounds good.
Four people left in the audience.
Pretty much.
Yeah, right.
Beforehand? Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, right. 2 pages. You know, oh, I thought
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't certainly do that, you know?
Put it over here.
All right. Now it's pretty much an empty room. We'll go ahead and get started on the consent agenda, items 6A through 6G. Is there any items that the council would like to pull for separate consideration? Alderman Bassey?
B, please.
Any others? See none, I'm looking for a motion to approve 6A, 6C through G. Alderwoman Miller?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda A, C through G, please.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Alderman McClatchy?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion on these items by City Council? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Here.
Alderman
Yes.
Santi,
Yes.
Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderwoman Massey.
Yes.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Alderman Cook.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The item pulled by Alderwoman Bassey is 6B, video gaming license to Graham Enterprises, DBA Trio, 138, at 5520 West Elm Street, and if approved, a motion to pass an ordinance amending Section 4-6-8, subsection A, pertaining to number of video game licenses of the McHenry City Code. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I would like a separate vote on this. I voted no on March 4th, 2024 for the gaming license for Thornton's, so I'm voting no on this gaming license. The city has enough, and I think we do not necessarily need to have gaming right by a junior high.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I am looking for a motion to approve 6B as presented. Alderwoman Miller?
I'll make that motion to approve 6B as presented.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Santi?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion on this item? Alderman Santi, go ahead.
This location is because of it's under state law, it's a truck stop facility. So, when they apply, or do they apply for state, or is it automatic in regards to they're allowed to do gaming via the state? I don't know if, is it?
Go ahead, Monty.
So they don't automatically get it from us. Like, we have to approve it. But from the state, they've applied already to the state, and their people will come assess the situation and make sure they're all within legal limits there too, right? Like the state has certain rules too. I don't know that there would be anything disqualifying for them. I don't know that answer, but I don't think it's automatic. They get investigated by the state as well.
Okay, so they had to have some kind of approval after that.
They do, and I would say, like, all the ones, we have 47 or 8. We've never had the state come to me and say, we're going to say no after we've said yes. That doesn't mean they're not going to say no sometime, but so far, everything we've approved has been approved through the state.
All right.
Take that for what it's worth, yeah.
Thank you,
Yep.
Clerk Johnson.
Any other questions, comments by council? See none? Brian, did you want to say anything, or are you good? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Santi,
Yes.
Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Massey,
No.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Alderman Cook.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Congratulations. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. And appreciate all the investment you put in the city of McHenry. Appreciate that. Thank you. Have a good evening. Next item on the agenda is 7A, a mural installation. A motion to pass an ordinance authorizing the mayor's execution of an agreement for a mural installation at 3425 Pearl Street. Director Martin, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Jett. The council requested to consider agreement for mural installation at 3425 Pearl Street. Several years ago, the Economic Development Department researched mural policies, and we visited several communities, looked at several ordinances, came up with mural policy and administrative rules and procedures and such, and adopted a policy basically to promote public art, foster a sense of place, encourage tourism, strengthen civic pride, promote economic development, things like that. In 2022, a local entrepreneur, Don Bremmer, spearheaded the installation of a mural at 2016 North Green Street. This went over it was well received in the community. There was a public participation element. It was funded primarily by local businesses. The city had a small part in that, not a large part in that particular mural. In June of last year, we met the owners of the McHenry Brewery, expressed an interest in doing a mural on their south wall and west wall of their building at 3425 Pearl Street. And Cynthia Locke and myself and the owners of the McHenry Brewery had met Cynthia Locke is just a very involved McHenry resident, member of the McHenry Riverwalk Foundation, and we met with several different muralists, interviewed them, talked with them about what kind of mural the brewery owners and the city kind of envisioned, and looked at this as kind of being like a public-private partnership. The city we had budgeted $10,000 in the economic development budget for murals for this year, and we narrowed the list down to two final muralists, and we asked them to submit designs, and then we narrowed that down to one muralist, and asked that person to submit a final design, and then tweaked it from there. The mural incorporates historical aspects of McHenry, the brewing process, and present-day landmarks, includes several different historic structures, and it is included an attachment on the mural installation agreement. The agreement is attached to the supplement, and the city's contribution is $9,500 towards the mural's cost. We did pay $500 for the design of one of the designs, and the property owner is covering the balance of the cost of the mural installation, plus all the prep work on the wall, the tuck pointing, the power washing, and the priming of the wall. There will be a public participation element of this mural installation. Similar to the Green Street mural installation, we want to involve the community as much as possible. So that's in the agreement as well. The reason for the agreement is the city's contribution towards the mural. The city doesn't really have any, the agreement's mostly between the property owner and the muralists. The city's liability towards the agreement is really a contribution. We do have a mural committee review. They don't review the design of the mural. They review the mural maintenance plan, and they review the mural materials. So that's why you see the technical specifications on the paint, as well as the how they're going to maintain it in terms of, wear and tear and stuff like that. The mural has to last at least 2 years, and then the muralist and the property owner maintains it with the cooperation of the muralist. So the mural committee did review that. If the council concurs, it's recommended that the attached ordinance authorizing the mayor's execution of the agreement for mural installation be approved. I will say that the masters are here from the McHenry Brewery if you have any questions of them. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Don. I am looking for a motion to approve 7A as presented. Alderman McClatchy?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Davis?
I'll second this.
Thank you. Discussion on this item by City Council? Alderman Cook?
You said $9,300 at the city's
$9,500.
95. I'm sorry. Where's this money coming from?
It's budgeted in economic development, and it'll be coming from transfer from the tourism fund.
Alderman Davis?
Yeah, I was just kind of confused. What it said the south and the west wall, so is it going to span like anything that's not the color of brick? Because I don't know what color it is, mauve or whatever you want to call that color, pink or whatever it is.
So
so it's going to be partial on the one wall and then, or?
Yeah, so the pink part
Okay.
of
That's
both
not-
sides.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all I was asking.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, number one, needless to say, when you look at the building, on that side, any kind of an improvement would be an improvement. And, thing is I can't picture that mural on there, with all the different lighting and whatnot. How is that gonna work? Is that gonna be all drawn around the lighting, or is the lighting gonna be reinstalled right on over the mural, or?
Well,
What's the plan on that?
so a lot of the fixtures are gonna have to be removed, and then the windows you can see are integrated into the mural. They're kind of painted around. You can see they're, like that, there's a window up there, a door over there on the right, a window right there, a door over there, a door over there, and then there's some, antennas and a dish that'll have to be taken down, up on the right upper left-hand corner. That's gonna have to be dealt with.
Okay. I mean, I look at the mural, and to be honest with you, what does it say? It says, let's have a couple beers on the Riverwalk, and pretty much that's what we're promoting over there. And I kind of feel to some extent it's not what McHenry wants to reflect itself as just a drinking, community. I mean, I just don't particularly care for the mural itself, be honest with you. Considering the city's gonna pay for about approximately half of what this project's gonna run, I would have liked to see something a little bit more historical and not necessarily, even though it's up against the brewing wall, if we're gonna contribute to it, I just can't see the beer and all that on there. My opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Santee?
Well, I see Alderman Glab's point, but, I mean, there's a lot of other aspects of the city that's represented here. Voting, the river, the item right in the middle, I mean, yeah, the gazebo, which is, I immediately relate to the parks there, and then the one-way bridge, which was, there, I want to say late 70s it was taken down, do you remember? Yeah, mid-70s. So something that we always, because we came in from the east side of town, so, and the Counts Building. So, and then there's another name for it, and I was trying to check in my notes for the lily pads, was the lotus beds, yeah, which, I mean, when you look at those historical books, those are definitely highlighted for both McHenry and McCollum Lake, when I've looked in those and read that. But, so there's many features. Yes, there is a mug of beer, 2 mugs of beer there, I get it. And I guess that's half of a canoe. But, no, I like the overall, I do like the presentation. I'm not a big fan of this, the way that they're depicting the sun, but that's okay with me. That's all I have, thank you.
Any other Alderman Davis?
Yeah, Andy, I didn't even think of it like that. I mean, I see your point too. I just assumed that those were put on there to bring, to kind of bring everything together for McHenry Brewing, because it even says MBO, or MBC, I think it is, McHenry Brewing Company. So that's kind of how I looked at it. But I do see your point from that perspective. But I think, to me, it was they were just trying to bring that connection together. So I don't, for whatever that's worth.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? See none? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Davis?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
No.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Master Family. Appreciate all the work you're putting in over there, so we look forward to seeing this project completed. Thank you.
Well, keep in mind, this is the corner of the building, right through here. So it kind of wraps around. It's emerging.
All right. Next item on the agenda is 7B, 2025 road program. I'm looking for a motion to award the 2025 road program to Curran Contracting Company of Crystal Lake, Illinois, in the amount of $1,847,900.46, and approve a construction contingency in the amount of 10% of the awarded contract price, which is $184,790.05, and to pass a resolution for maintenance authorizing the use $2,032,691 of state motor fuel tax funds for the project. Acting Director Adams, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for our 2025 road resurfacing program. We're looking to resurface approximately 6.1 miles of city streets with this funding. Curran Contractors was the low bidder for this year's program, and the original, when we budgeted for this, we had $2.2 million set aside in the budget. So even with the 10% contingency, we're looking to spend just over $2 million at 2.03 for the total project. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve. Alderman Santee.
I will make the motion to approve item 7B, 2025 road program as presented.
Thank you. Second. Alderman Cook.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion on this item by City Council. Alderman Glab.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe this is the last year that, we have the rating for the 5-year program, and, we'll be discussing a new rating for next year.
That's correct. We should have the updated ratings by the end of the month, and we're hoping to present something to council sometime next month.
Okay. Again, when we do discuss it, I would hope the council remembers some of my comments, and that's the fact that, we don't just look at the, rating of, the road surface or the compaction ratios and all that, but we also look at the use of the roads so that we're not just judging all the ratings on just the physical nature of the road, and we got to look at what the use of those roads are, and some of our major roads that are used quite a bit sometimes get neglected because of they may be just a little bit nicer than some of the other roads, but then again, if they do carry that much more traffic, maybe 80 times in some cases or more, those roads need to be rated a little higher because of the use, I think, when we look at it. And I'll give you a good, for instance, is probably Water's Edge and Oakwood, and not so much the east-west, but the north-south. It gets a lot of traffic from people coming over the bridge and everything. And those are the type of roads that we really need to look at real wisely when we do get the ratings in, because those are the type of roads. I mean, it carries a lot of bus traffic, school traffic every day, 5 days a week through most of the year, and those are the type of roads we need to look at. Just as well as I don't know, although we did grow not too long ago, wasn't it? But I mean, if it wasn't, considering what we did over there, we would have to be looking at improving that road because of the use that it'll wind up taking. So that's, again, it's not just cut and dry that this is what a machine that they take and pass through the town rates as far as the overall compaction ratio and everything. That we got to look at what's best for the city as far as that we're giving the best bang for our buck to our residents, and it also sounds like we'll be getting a little bit more road and bridge funds shortly, which should help. I would hope would boost up the amount that we're spending on our road programs, because $2 million a year, again, like I say, is not enough. We were told years back that $2 million a year, and 7 years later, we would be right back to where we were, and we need to catch up, and the only way to catch up is we've got to fight to get every dollar we can into the road program. Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
Director Adams, on the map, what are the minus signs? Is that the depth that needs to be replaced, or is it just a notation?
Yeah, it's just like a dash mark, so it tells you some of the roads are getting a full 4-inch thickness, some of them are only getting 1.5 inches surface course, so it just depends on the level of paving that's being done on that road,
So does 4 inches take us down to gravel base, or,
typically.
and 1.5 is just scraping the
Just
surface?
the
and-
surface course, and that takes you down to the binder that's above the gravel course.
Perfect. I hadn't seen that on the map before, so I didn't realize that we had variance. So thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
I just had a question on, do we have a estimated time that we're looking to start resurfacing? Once this is awarded, are they gonna start a month, 2 months, right away?
We have a pre-construction meeting on Thursday, so I'll have a better idea of the timeline after that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Any public comment regarding this item? All right, sir, can you come up to the podium? Sir, can you come up to the podium? Sorry. Monty, do you have the copy of what roads?
I can print one.
See, I'm gonna come up and talk to you.
So, sir, if you want, Monty can print one with all the roads on it that is on this contract, if you would like that.
I live on Maple Avenue, and that street is disastrous. I just wonder what sequence, if it happens to be this year for us.
Maple Avenue, I don't believe it's on this one. No.
But, okay. Because that street, I've been on it 50 years, and it's never been resurfaced or nothing.
Well, we're hoping this new study that we're having done
Yeah.
in next month, and hopefully we can discuss that and see where that lands on
I
that
know.
report.
Well, all you do is travel. It's getting a lot of business down there now.
Okay, Maple Avenue. We'll take a look, and when we get this report, we'll take a look and see
I
where it's at.
appreciate it.
If
Thank
you don't mind, can you get his contact information? Thank you. All right. Any other discussion by City Council? Alderman Glad?
Just want to mention, not saying that, I haven't been actually observant of Maple. I've used it a few times in this year, but some people that have complained over the years as far as that their road hasn't been touched, maybe since the subdivision was built. The quality of the material that was used many years ago holds up a lot better than it does today. And I will use Oakwood as a good example in this effect. That we did Oakwood, I believe, probably about 22, 23 years ago. And there are roads out there that are 40-plus old that look a heck of a lot better than Oakwood. And it isn't just because of the wear and tear that road takes, but again, the quality. So sometimes you can redo a road just because of the fact that there's a lot of public pressure, but then 10 years down the road, that street may not look as good as some of the ones that are still in that area that haven't been touched. So, just wanted to bring that up. There's a lot of different scenarios you have to look when you're looking at a road program. So,
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cook, go ahead.
Mr. Adams, do these bids go out to all the asphalt companies or just these three? I mean,
We advertise it publicly. It's open to
okay, so
anybody.
it's up to the contractor to submit whatever if they wanted to bid on it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Just curious, do we know where Maple Avenue ranked on the study?
For the current 5-year plan,
Right.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I could look it up and let you know in a couple minutes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. No other questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Sandy?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Massey?
Yes.
Alderman Davis?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is 7C, a zoning text amendment. Motion to pass an ordinance granting various zoning text amendments to the City of McHenry zoning ordinance. Director Palarecki?
Thank you, Mayor. As staff works through various projects throughout the city, we're always looking for ways to become more efficient. That includes text amendments to our zoning ordinance, our municipal code. That's what is here before you this evening. As we work through recent projects like Panera and, Chick-fil-A, we started looking at the requirement for conditional use permits for drive-throughs and, looked at the history of the conditional use for the drive-throughs. We determined that over the course of the last 35 years, there was only one conditional use denied for a drive-through. That was a Hardee's in 1990 at 1715 Richmond Road, which obviously was never built. But so we started to look at other communities to see how they determine the uses on the property, and do they have a conditional use permit requirement. So what we found is that majority of the communities do allow drive-throughs in their commercial districts, such as ours, our C3 and our C5 districts. Crystal Lake does have a requirement that if it's next to a residential zoning, that it has to go through that conditional use process, and it's not an allowed use. So that is the reason why the Hardee's was denied in 1990, because it was adjacent to a residential property. So we thought that presenting the similar requirements for the drive-throughs would be acceptable. So we're presenting tonight to you and asking that we move forward and allow drive-throughs to be a allowed use in the C3 and the C5 without a conditional use. And really the reason for this is to just be more efficient and friendly to these developers that want to come in, and not, if they have to go through a six week, 8 week, 3-month process in order to get a conditional use for a drive-through when they're in the middle of a commercial zoning district, that could stop a deal from happening. That could definitely delay a project. So some other text amendments that we're doing, we're just looking to add some more acceptable types of landscaping to our landscaping perimeter. If you guys read through that, evergreens tend to not hold up in parking lots and along roadways because of salt during the winter times. It kills them off. Those plants end up dying, and a lot of times they never get replaced. So we want to be able to use grasses, perennial grasses and things like that to replace the evergreens. So if you have any questions, I am here to answer those.
Thank you, Ross. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve 7C as presented. Alderman Santee.
I will make the motion to approve 7C, the zoning text amendments as presented.
Thank you. Second. Alderman Miller.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion on this item by City Council. Alderman Gleb.
Okay, over the years, we keep taking fewer and fewer things to come back to the City Council because we want to make it easier for developers. But you know what? We're not here to represent the developers as much as we are here to represent the people in the City of McHenry. So we want what's best for the City of McHenry as far as growth and development, proper development. Granted, maybe we only denied one since in 1990, but I can tell you right now that in discussions over the years, there have been several times that when it came to council, we did make comments as far as making slight changes in the drive-throughs just before we approved them. And I'll go back to when I first was a rookie alderman back in 1997, discussion with the city clerk at the time, and that's the fact that, the more people that look at a project, the better project you get, because everybody makes that little bit of extra in there. That's why I think it was a shame years back, we used to have it to where developers had to come in and they had to go to a planning commission, then they had to go to a zoning commission, and then they came to the city council. And that way, there were a lot of times that people could look at everything. Now, if we're going to do that with this, what are we going to do as far as liquor licenses? Let's just do away with a limitation of liquor licenses. Why do we have them there? More than anything else. If it's not appropriate, we don't want it. We don't have an extra one to give them. And it's basically the same thing with conditional uses. If it isn't appropriate and it meets the criteria, but maybe for some reason it doesn't meet the expectations of what the city wants, then at least the city council could say something and bring it up and have some control on it. Otherwise, it just gets approved and not necessarily will we get the best development for the city of McHenry. Just the fact that it made the ordinances, because we changed the ordinances. We did it easier for developers. It's not the way to develop a city, is to just make it easier so that developers don't have to spend as much money or whatever. We need to make it lucrative for developers to come here because they want to build in McHenry, because McHenry knows what they want. They know what they will allow and what they won't, and they won't be backdoored in the middle of the process. They know what we will and what we won't accept. And the thing is now we're just going to accept these no matter what. And I just can't see voting this for it. I'm definitely against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Santee?
Well, I think when you look at the overall big picture here, we're looking at, I think, an efficiency level here that will be a benefit to the city and also to the staff that works for us here in regards to, if this is in the text amendments, along with other ones that we're looking at making adjustments in tonight, it does present to the developer that here's what's allowed, here's what's not allowed. And if you reverse and go the opposite way, where a developer is denied by staff, and I guess I should not make a statement, I should probably ask the question first to Director Palarecki. If a developer is denied, but they're still very interested in coming to the city, would they be allowed the option to place it as an agenda item for a possible vote with us? And I don't know if it's a Director Palarecki question, it might be more.
As far as the drive-through goes?
Yes.
I mean, if staff reviews a plan for a drive-through and they don't meet the criteria for lane width, stacking, whatever that is, then they're not going to get approved at the staff level. So if I could just add to that, the Panera and the Chick-fil-A, those drive-throughs and conditional uses were approved without having an end user on those properties. So there was no plan to review, and at that point, we approved a conditional use on the outlot itself without a building. So there would be nothing for City Council to review at that point. Mm-hmm. And we have staff engineers, we have building department staff to review those. So that's just my take on it.
Go ahead. Thank you. I have a follow-up. There was also in regards to with developers. I mean, developers are a key item here. It is also what I've seen over, the last, dozen years or so, was that we've had a lot of developers have the conversation at staff level. Then they actually request to do a presentation prior to zoning and planning meetings, so they get, and I'll understand that it's not a full commitment from us, but it is a way of presenting. It is a public meeting. There will be public statements that can be followed up on, positive or negative, and then they can make the decision to move forward to zoning and planning and then come back to us. So I see where, we've done the presentation quite often. I do like it because there again, it does give us and it does give the community, the citizens, at least two different avenues, two different time frames to respond and place statements on public record. Whether to move forward, and it's good words, it's good notes for when I review zoning and plan minutes. I do see where whether there are public comments or not, but I do make note of those and do appreciate when the public does come out in those meetings and requests, or not requests, but just makes their statements, whether they're in favor of it or not, or ask questions to the planning and zoning commissioners. That's all I have. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
So I support the motion to approve the text amendments. I believe that our ordinances provide three things. They provide an opportunity and direction for staff, because staff is typically the first interaction when someone wants to do something in our community. They're going to typically reach out to staff, so our ordinances and the way they're written give them or empower them to have that communication. 2, it sets a standard that we're good with. And 3, it establishes that any conditional use has to come to us anyway. So I think having the text amendments in place reflect the current feel of our community and doesn't take away from our ability to still encourage or ask for modifications. It just gives you a launching pad. So I support the motion to include the text amendments.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Gleb?
Yeah, I'll make a good example, and that's the fact that how much time and energy did staff put in to the Shodine projects? Okay? How much easier did we need to make it? If it didn't come to council, we'd have had a nightmare. And if we keep passing up bringing things to council, heaven knows what's going to go on down the road. I just think to some extent, residents elect us to do what's best for them, listening to them. And if we take and pass it along because staff knows better, well, staff doesn't always know better. We've had history on that, okay? I'm not saying that they're wrong all the time or anything else, but there are mistakes that are made once in a while. And if it comes to council and another entity looks at it, there's a less chance of it happening. Now, the thing is maybe we go down 8 or 10 years down the road before we look at a drive-through that all of a sudden the council says no. But at least it's there for us to possibly say no. And again, conditional uses, things are put in so that they're conditional uses, so that that rare occasion when something isn't right can be denied by the council. And that's where I stand on it. Thank you.
Alderman Davis?
Yeah, I was just looking for clarification. So let's say we do pass this and we say, because to me, it's just clear enough text. I mean, I don't see it as a big, but the question is, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to come to us and we can't do it and we can't shoot it down if we have an issue with it. Correct?
Well, if it's if you have a restaurant, which is an allowed use in a C3 and a C5, and it's a sit-down restaurant, no drive-through, they build tomorrow. They don't need approval from city council. It's an allowed use in that zoning district. If you have, right now, the way it stands is if you have a restaurant, that same restaurant, but they decide to put a drive-through in, they have to go through planning and zoning and city council. And every one of those in the last 35 years has passed except for the one. Now, I question how much staff time was put in doing staff reports and investigations into those drive-throughs when all of them passed. And that's where we look at efficiency and we try to say, okay, if we're consistently passing these things, then why are they not an allowed use? Then we go to the next step and we go to other communities and see how other communities are handling the same situation. And what we found is that the majority of the communities are allowing these as drive-throughs as allowed use, so that's why we're presenting it here this evening to you in that fashion.
Alderman Cook?
So you're telling me this is a blueprint on how they're going to do drive-throughs all the time?
No, you are not allowed to have an establishment in the city of McHenry with a drive-through without going through planning and zoning and a city council approval. That's how it currently sits right now. What we're looking to do is eliminate the planning and zoning and city council approval for a drive-through. unless it's located next to a residential lot. If it's located next to a residential lot, we want to take that extra step and go through planning and zoning and city council to ensure that the residents of this community are protected. If it's in the middle of Route 120 and there's nothing but commercial and restaurants around you, do you feel the need that it still needs to go through that extra 2 steps? If you do, then we deny the text amendments tonight and we move forward. If you agree with staff, then we move forward with, not requiring the 2 extra steps for properties not adjacent to residential.
And you're bringing it up because the only one that has been denied is because it was next to a residential. So essentially, you're leaving that on the table.
Right. We want to protect the residents. If you're proposing a restaurant next to a residential property, we want to make sure that those residents are protected. So it has to go through the process then. That's how we're proposing this evening.
Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. So any restaurant, I don't care what it is, or they still have to come to the city with a plan, right? And we have to approve that.
Staff. They don't come to city council.
Mm-hmm.
So
if the staff looked at something and the drive-through doesn't look right.
Oh, absolutely.
It's your turn to.
Yeah, I mean, we have engineers that look at that stuff,
Okay.
During our review process.
Right.
It goes through a building department review, and then it goes through an engineering approval as well. So they're going to look at lane width, stacking counts, all of that. The professionals will, and they'll come back to us and they'll say, hey, there's not enough stacking room here, or we need to make this lane wider, or we need an emergency exit out of this drive-through. Those are all things that we look at as staff.
Okay.
Alderman Glenn.
Give you another scenario, and that's the fact that, okay, it's not next to residential, it's next to a business that's been there for, let's say, 35 years, and all of a sudden somebody buys or moves in next door and they want a drive-through that is possibly going to impact the business next door. But, they make the criteria as far as what the zoning text amendment states, so they get it, even though it's going to impact the other business, and the other business could have what alternatives, but just come here and complain, and what are we going to tell them? Well, they met the ordinances, and staff approved it because it all matched to the what the ordinances state. But again, it could possibly impact the businesses, and at least the businesses would have a venue to be able to exercise their voice as far as against it if they feel that it is going to be hurting their businesses. And like I said, that's why we have variances and why we have certain processes to protect our residents and give them the chance to take and speak up as far as these different types of changes that they could impact them, whether it be a business or a resident. And again, I don't want to keep beating a dead drum, but that's my feeling on it. Otherwise, why are we here?
Alderman Massey?
Actually, my comment was very close to what Alderman Glad brought up. If a developer comes through and all the boxes are checked, but we as a council collectively don't think it's a good idea, what recourse do we have?
David, this might be for you, but for Alderman Glab's last comments, just because it's competition, you can't deny a use based on competition of a neighbor. Like that is, am I right on that? Well, if you said it's negatively going to affect the neighbor, I don't think that you can deny based on that.
That's not they're not a competitor. They're just another business that's opening up next door that's a poor neighbor then, if they don't care if they hurt their neighbor. That's what it is. It's not competition, Ross. There's a whole different...
Hey, listen, I misunderstood you.
Learn the definitions of a competitor, okay, please?
So, would you tell about traffic impact or something?
All right. Alderman Bass, are you done? Yeah, I don't know if you got your question answered or not.
I remember my question, but I don't really see.
So not
Oh,
all,
sorry, thank you.
not all uses, if it's an allowed use in that zoning district, it doesn't come before the city council.
I understand
So
what you're
mattress
saying.
stores can move in tomorrow in a C4, C5, or I'm sorry, a C3 or a C5. You know, you see a lot of that on the internet. Well, why are all these mattress stores? Well, they're an allowed use. So anybody can move in a C5 and open a mattress store. Anybody can move in a C5 and open a restaurant without a drive-through.
Okay, and I understand that, but I don't think my question was actually answered. So in this scenario, the developer has come through and checked all the boxes. Staff said, yes, it's a great idea, but collectively, council has issues. Can we ask it to come forward to us, or we cannot because
No, you
with this
cannot.
new ordinance, staff has said it's approved?
It's an allowed use.
Okay,
You cannot if it's an allowed use.
okay, all right, thank you.
Alderman Santee?
Please understand me when I say this, is that every month there's new businesses that are opening up, and I see them. I don't recall ever reading about them except maybe in a staff report congratulating them or showing a ribbon cutting from the chamber. That's what staff is here for, is that they need to approve this as long as it runs within our, text amendments and our zoning amendments, so they're allowed to move forward and get their business up and running as soon as they can physically put it together. Alderman Glad brought up a good point about how it impact the neighbor next door, the business neighbor. And I see that as a business comes next door to another business. Two things I see here is that there are drive-through restaurants next to drive-through restaurants next to drive-through restaurants. There are car dealers next to car dealers next to car dealers. It's all competition, and I know, I understand it's just one item, but let me get to the other one. That those always happen, but if a business comes into another business and it's just a standing restaurant, okay, they have their certain amount of customers that come in, do their thing. If they have a drive-through along with the restaurant, that tells me that that restaurant is reaching out to more customers, bringing more customers into that area, showing off that area of town, and putting more eyeballs on the businesses right next door, where I see that as a positive because there's more people there. And with more people going in front of your business, whether they're picking up a drive-through or whether they're just driving by, they see the business, and I see it as promoting your neighbor business because you're bringing more eyeballs. If I have a more attractive business next to my business, I'm going over there with flowers or a plant when they open up to say, thanks for coming into the neighborhood. I mean, that's the way I see the impact. It's you might look at it as a negative, but I see it as a positive because it's just bringing more people into that space if they're offering a couple of different ways how to pick up their meal. Thank you.
Alderman Davis?
Yeah, I think we're beating a dead horse here, but I do see the points, and I do agree with them, but I do think that we need to kind of enable our staff they are essentially the experts. None of us are economic experts up here, engineers or any of that. So I don't see it as being a problem. The one question I did have is, do we have any estimate on what we think, how long it takes, extra time it takes if there is a drive-through or that type of stuff? Is it 4 hours, 8 hours? Do we have to have multiple meetings where it turns into, 30 hours? We have to, what, do we have any guesstimate on that?
As far as staff goes,
Yeah, like how much time are you guys saving by us putting this through?
well,
Obviously, there's, documentation, there's meeting with the whoever,
yeah, I mean, it's
company.
it's the time that we have to prepare the staff reports for the planning and zoning, and then, again, get it turned around to the city council. I mean, it's probably a good, at minimum, we could push something through to that in 6 weeks, but you're probably adding 8 weeks to 3 months,
I think he's asking how many
of
hours.
time. As
Yeah,
far
like
as
how much
staff
actual
time goes,
time are we, like if we pass this today, just a shot in the dark, do we think this is gonna save us 10 hours on a project? Like realistic, actual time, and then we go back, this has happened once in the last 25, 30 years, so over that time frame, that's where that efficiency comes in. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what
mean,
was trying to get to.
it's hard for me to quantify that,
Okay.
because every site is different, we may have, and two, I'll just say this, we review all this stuff before it even comes to planning and zoning, so it goes through an engineering review, a building review, to make sure that it's meeting all that criteria before it comes to you, so that is all gonna continue. Basically, what we're doing is shortening the process for that builder to build that restaurant.
Right.
And again, our biggest concern was the residents of the community, and that's why we wanted to go through that process if it's next to a residential zoning district. That's,
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had any estimate on that, just to kind of put some numbers.
yeah,
on
each
paper.
one, different,
Okay.
it's hard.
Alderman Miller?
I just wanted to say a comment that obviously the world is changing and has changed drastically since COVID. And there are more business models that are coming out that are literally drive-through only models. Coffee shops, liquor stores. I can go down a laundry list of entities that I'm aware of and have read articles on that no longer need a storefront or store foot space. They're building their entire model on drive-through. So I think it's important that, again, we enable staff with as many tools as we can to give them those opportunities to have those conversations. Because what we have today isn't what we're going to always have. The models are changing, and it's important that we stay forward-thinking, not backward-thinking on some of these things. I think it's important, and we have to be open-minded to new models. Thank you.
Alderman Cook?
Just like the coffee shop that's supposed to be there on 31 and 120 there. at
Seven
the
Brew?
cor- Huh?
Seven Brew, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's it. So, would this have helped that Seven Brew thing, with the configuration of the drive-through and everything else, since they don't have a walk-in shop? I mean,
It could potentially help them, I guess, get out of the ground earlier, yeah, but, I think the state's gonna shut that one down. That corner just can't handle a business like that, and the state's not gonna allow the access that they want.
And they're
We're looking at almost a year now since they have first approached us, and we haven't heard a peep from them, so, Doug, I don't know if you have an update on that? Is it still in the state's hands?
Couple months ago, they're still reviewing it.
Yeah, so, it's not, in my opinion, it doesn't look good anyways, but
would these,
it's just one less
amendments,
step.
would these amendments would have stopped that one, or?
No, nothing would.
They would have gave the official okey-dokey and said, here, have at it, or what?
They just would have been allowed to operate a drive-through without going through planning and zoning.
But they still have to go through the state for
It-
approval,
it's,
just like
yeah,
it is
I mean,
now.
it's,
Nothing
if,
changes
if,
on that end.
if this passed tonight, they would be able to operate with a drive-through without going to planning and zoning. Alls we're trying to do is make the process more efficient based on the history and what other communities around us are doing.
Just a reminder too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that was just a concept plan that has come forward?
Right, there's
At this point?
nothing,
Yeah,
right.
there have been no approvals from the city council for that project to move forward at this point.
Well, I was asking if, it would had to come up to the council to give them approval to do what they wanted, right?
For Seven Brew.
For Seven Brew. right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, no.
No,
not-
it's an allowed, a coffee shop is an allowed use in that zoning district, so it would be like the mattress store. They could just go get their certificate of occupancy and open up, or give a building permit and build a building.
With the drive-through?
Right now, they can't without, right.
Right, okay.
So it's up to the state to let them, Seven Brew, be able to make their business there, right? No, what I meant is...
Currently, as it stands, if you guys do not pass these amendments tonight, Seven Brew would have to come before you to operate there. If you pass these amendments, Seven Brew would not have to come before you.
They go to the state for the curb cut.
Okay.
The traffic counts that would come out of a coffee shop like that are gonna, they're on the high end, and it's, the state's not gonna, in my opinion, the history is they're gonna look, they're not gonna agree to that on that corner. It's just way too busy, but.
Also, my opinion on the stacking as well.
Correct.
So, which is on the engineering side for this,
Right.
our side, which,
Okay.
so, Alderman Glab.
Yeah, so what we're stating basically is that the city council won't have much to say about this, but the state can control it, but we have no say in it as far as at the council level. Because basically, if we change this ordinance, it never comes to us. But yet the state, it still has to go to the state. So the state could hold it up, and we've seen a lot of proposals that have been held up for months and months, and sometimes almost a year, haven't we, Ross? As far as because the state held up access points, and then in some cases denied them. And so I think, are we here for a foot race to get development as fast as we can, or do we want to get development right and make sure everybody looks at it and everybody's comfortable with it?
If I could just add to that real quick, the state's not approving it because of a drive-through or not a drive-through. The state's approving the ingress and the egress to the state highway across the state right-of-way. That's all they're doing is curb cuts and, right in and right out traffic. So they're not approving based on a drive-through.
Thank you. All right. So any public comment? Please say no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santi,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey,
No.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Glab.
No.
That is passed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a budget presentation. Suzanne Ostrowski will go ahead and present our proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman McClatchy gave me 5 minutes, so I will talk quickly. If the council recalls, this is our second budget conversation of this year. We were here before you on March 17th talking about our general fund, as well as the recreation center fund, the water and sewer fund, and our capital program for the upcoming budget year. Tonight we're going to take a look at any revisions that have come forward since that conversation on the 17th. And then we're going to go through the additional funds that the city has that are out there, and then we will talk about making sure that we have a consensus for the budget to pass at the next meeting on April 21st. So circling back to the general fund for just a moment, we do have a few changes that have occurred since the last time the City Council saw these numbers. And again, these spreadsheets were updated in the packet that went out last week. So I just want to highlight a couple of these in terms of community development. We had I believe it's a formula error, so that number went up by about $14,000, so we caught that. The police department salaries and benefits, there is an increase there of about $67,000. Over the course of the past year, because of the body cameras and the additional needs for the FOIA officer and the time that has taken, that position has moved from a part-time to a full-time position. That is the only true position adjustment year over year for this budget. Public Works Administration salaries and benefits went down by just shy of $30,000 due to some personnel changes there. And then you will see an increase of $30,000 for the Phase 3 engineering for the Oakwood Drive Bridge rehab. Those are real numbers, which came in a little bit higher than the original budget numbers. So that is the explanation for those changes there. So any questions for council on any of those items before we move forward? There were no changes to the Recreation Center or the Water and Sewer Fund. Okay, moving on. We're going to go through our special revenue funds. Some of these we talk about on a regular basis, like the Tourism Fund. Obviously, that one came up earlier this evening. Others, like the Pageant Fund and the Band Fund, we talk about once a year, typically during the budget process. So you will see the Tourism Fund there. The revenues are budgeted at $288,000. Expenses are budgeted at $237,000. We have an ending fund balance there of $353,000. This is the funding mechanism that we use to fund our annual events. You see a list of them there, including Shamrocks the Fox, Light the Night, the Fiesta Days fireworks, and the summer concerts, as well as the dues for Naturally McHenry County. They are our tourism group that we are a part of, along with some other communities in McHenry County. Moving on to the Pageant Fund, revenues and expenses both are budgeted at $5,000 for the upcoming year. If you recall, the pageant finally came back. It was gone since 2019, came back for the first time last year. I believe there were 5 contestants in the pageant last year, so we'll see where that heads for this year. And then the Band Fund, we talk about that just in the context of the summer city band concerts that happen on a regular basis over the summer. Revenues budgeted $12,000, expenses $15,000. Then we've got an ending fund balance projected of $8,710 there. Those are pass-through revenues that come from the Tourism Fund, so those are kind of counted twice on this page. Any questions there? Alderman Cook?
Alderman Cook, go ahead.
What do you call it? The Tourism Fund, is that the same fund that is helping the mural that's on the brewery thing and all that?
Yes, yes it is.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is the Civil Defense Fund.
Just a basic question. What was there a pageant budgeted for 2020, 2021, 2022? 2023, was there money
there was,
there?
yeah, the placeholders always remained.
Okay.
And the pageant is pretty self-sufficient. Obviously, the dues and the sponsorships that the girls take in, or that it takes in, it covers all the expenses of the pageant. But we haven't had it for a long time. We didn't have a pageant director, and we didn't have interest in it.
Okay.
We found somebody that was very interested in bringing that back and has done an excellent job for us.
And the reason I asked just because, okay, we didn't hold back because no money was budgeted. Okay, so it was there.
It was there. Yes,
okay.
It was.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Moving on to the Civil Defense Fund for defense of natural disasters and man-made environmental disasters. Primarily what this funds is our early warning signals that are throughout the city. Revenues budgeted there, $23,000. Expenses coming in at the exact same level. We expect a fund balance at the end of the upcoming fiscal year of $5,580. You can see we are paying some expenses out of that fund for this year. One of the things we have been working on is the IGA with the McHenry Township Fire Protection District. We are splitting the cost of a new siren with the fire department, and so that will be coming forward this year. You will note this grant application. So the police department sourced a grant, and they have applied for that for $8,500, cover half of city's portion of that cost. So the grant revenue is not budgeted right now because we find out until summer whether we got that grant or not. But just a heads up, we are actively seeking grant funding for some of these projects. Moving on to the Alarm Board Fund, these are billed to end users, who have alarms that are monitored by the dispatch center. They're billed $90 a month, and so we've got about $235,000 in revenue that comes in on an annual basis from those charges. Our expenses are budgeted for this year of $142,000, You'll see the siren is mentioned here again. This is just a transfer. We expect the fund balance at the end of fiscal year 25-26 to be about $1.5 million. Any questions there?
What's the beginning balance?
Alderwoman Mabbasi is looking for the beginning balance of the alarm board fund. So I would say,
minus 140.
well, so revenues are 235,000, expenses are 142, and we're going to end at 1 point. So, yeah, all right. Anyone else? Good. All right, next up is the audit fund. Again, this is to pay out our annual audit costs. So, just recently approved that contract to move forward with Excision. The fund balance there will be $1,210 at the end of fiscal year 25. The annexation fund is up next, which is when the city negotiates an annexation agreement. These funds are intended to be used for city infrastructure improvements. The primary source of funding for this annexation fund right now is the mining revenue, mining fees revenue that comes in. We do have one expense budgeted out of this fund for the upcoming fiscal year for $35,000 for the Public Works Facility bond payment. That bond was taken out a number of years ago, and so we're just continuing to pay that on an annual basis from this fund. The estimated fund balance at the end of fiscal year 25-26 is about $1.4 million. Any questions there?
Is Redwood included in any of this annexation fund? Because that was something that we did in the last 12 months. Sorry, I just thought about this one.
Ross, I'm not.
I mean, I don't have an answer to that question, though. I would imagine...
I mean, I don't know if there are annexation fees for schools, and those are paid directly to them. Do we have annexation coming in from?
They're already annexed in. They've paid all their fees, so I mean, that it would be in this last year's budget.
Okay.
We can certainly double check that and get an
Okay,
answer.
I did not mean to throw you guys off. It's just as Suzanne's reading this so fast, it's like, boom, sorry.
No, it's a very good question, and we will get you an answer on that one. Carolyn, can you make a note of that? Thanks. All right, anyone else? All right, moving on. This is our motor fuel tax and local motor fuel tax funds here. The motor fuel tax is federal and state monies that come in that are intended for roads. They come in from the taxes that everyone is paying on their gasoline and diesel. And again, these are funds that we can only spend on very specific purposes, and they have to go back into road construction. And so you can see a list here. Again, we have staff here to answer any questions you have about specific expenditures in the upcoming year. Green Street, Bull Valley Road, and the road program are all funded out of motor fuel tax funding there. The local motor fuel tax fund, that's our local tax. Because we're home rule, we have the ability to levy this tax. It's 3 cents per gallon on any gallon of gas you buy within the city limits of McHenry. Again, this is used and dedicated for road resurfacing projects. And so we've got 2 projects that are budgeted for the upcoming year, Oakwood Drive Bridge and the Barrelful Road engineering projects. Those are coming out of local MFT. Any questions there? Okay, moving on. We talk a little bit on a regular basis about our developer donation fund. So when developments happen in the city, we collect funding on behalf of the school districts, the fire protection district, the library district, and the city's park system. And so those are monies. Some of them are pass-through revenues that we distribute back out to those other taxing bodies that I mentioned. But we've got about so revenues budgeted for this upcoming fiscal year, $480,000. Expenses, $320,000, which includes $195,000 in administrative and distribution expenses and $125,000 in capital expenses. We'll talk a little bit on the next slide about what those expenses are for this year. We estimate the fund balance at the end of 25-26 to be about $1.7 million there. Then we'll talk a little bit on the next slide as well about the TIF fund, the Tax Increment Financing Fund. We talk about that quite a bit. We have one TIF fund within the city. It is located in the downtown area. those funds are dedicated, any funds that are collected into this fund are dedicated then to be reinvested back into that TIF district in the downtown. The revenues budgeted for this upcoming fiscal year are about $980,000, and that's, it fluctuates a little bit based on the equalized assessed value of the properties within the TIF, but that's what we're anticipating for the upcoming fiscal year. We've got $1.3 million in expenses budgeted here. That includes miscellaneous expenses, which I believe that information was circulated to the council, as well as capital expenses, which we will go into here momentarily. Just a reminder to the City Council and anyone listening that the TIF fund is intended to be an instrument that does run into the negative. So when you see that our revenues are not keeping up with our expenses in this fund, that is sort of the way that the TIF is intended to be used, because we know that we have $980,000 coming in this year, and more than likely around that same amount, or if we're doing it right, a little bit more than that coming in the next year. And so you will see these go into the negative on a regular basis, but understanding that the following year there will be additional funding coming in.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Carolyn for her time today. Just so we understand on the TIF, the one thing I had confirmation was that the revenues of the property, the money through property tax collections, go to the county and come right back to us, where we're not dealing with the state and we're not waiting 6 to 9 months for our money. So I know we go in a deficit from time to time, but it's money that does come back to us very quickly, and we're able to, apply it to those expenditures. If I'm misspoke, please tell me. But thank you. I appreciate you re-explaining that to me today. Thank you.
Alderman McClatchy?
Thank you. I still don't understand, TIF districts are here to make money and help businesses come in. How do we go in the red like this? I see it happens once in a while, but this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, that is a very good segue. Let's
Thank
take a
you.
look at this next slide with the projects that we are intending to do within the TIF district in the upcoming year. We'll touch on the TIF first, because obviously that's the question at hand. So we have some site remediation that is still out there for the wastewater treatment site. We have some redecking of the Riverwalk. The Riverwalk now is about 20 years old, and so some of those deck pieces are coming up, and so we just need to do maintenance on that just in a timely manner. We have the downtown parking study that was recently approved by the City Council, so that's moving forward at a cost of $58,500. One of the big ticket items here is the sewer replacement for the Venice Avenue project. So that is something that has been needed for quite some time, as far as I've heard from the staff, and will really assist those businesses on Green Street specifically with their sewer problems. We've got the pedestrian bridge repair. That is for the bridge that goes over into Miller Point. Again, that's just it's been there for a while, and it's starting to deteriorate in some areas. So coming back to make sure that we're maintaining the infrastructure that is there. Riverwalk Phase 4 and the Riverwalk Power Pole Burial, you will recall, those are items that were completed in this current fiscal year, but we just have some outstanding questions and punch list items that we're still negotiating with vendors that did that work for us. And so those two items are rebudgeted for this upcoming year. So when you take those out, the picture looks a little bit closer to the revenue that's actually coming in on an annual basis.
What's with the Cold Springs Park planning and design?
We'll double back to that one in a second. So we're talking about TIF right now. So does that answer your question, Alderman McClatchy?
Yeah, but it's still enough that we're negative in that fund.
Yeah, well, but again, the purpose of that fund is to reinvest and make improvements in the area. So you can see, obviously, the projects that we're selecting to complete with this money do accomplish that goal. And so the City Council obviously has the ability to comment or impact some of these decisions, right? So if there are some of these things that you would want to hear more about, or you would prefer that we don't move forward with, now's your opportunity to say that. Again, some of these things you have seen already. Some of them will be coming back to you for additional approvals in the future as well. So you do have that opportunity.
One comment on that, if I may, and that's the fact that some of this is not building, but it's maintaining, and I'd rather see it come out of the TIF, because a lot of this was built by the TIF funds, rather than just come straight out of the general fund. So, again, with the TIF, that's what it's there for.
Any other questions? Alderman Bassi?
Just a real quick statement. I think we need to be extremely careful to only spend the money we have. Think about your own personal finances. If it means delaying the purchase of a car or something, I think as a city we really need to live within our means, and here we've got a $536,000 deficit. So I understand that it's a timing, but I think we need to be extremely aware of living within our budget.
Understood.
Alderman Cook?
The Riverwalk redecking, is that because it's wood, or it's, what is it?
Composite.
The decking material, say like the piers and all that, they lifetime warranty and all that kind of stuff, is that?
I wish it was lifetime warranty. It is composite wood that we use for the decking. We're talking about the section of decking that's right in front of the Riverwalk Place townhomes.
Okay.
We are at 20 years. We built it in 2005. And so it's not quite as much the decking that's on top. That's held up pretty well, actually, very well. The problem lies more in the understructure of that, the superstructure of the actual deck itself. Obviously, it's exposed to the element of the river. The joist hangers, some of those joist hangers start to fail, those type of elements. So the actual structure itself, again, being 20 years old, there's some concerns. It's completely safe. However, being 20 years old, we need to get in and do the maintenance that should be required of a 20-year-old deck. So that's where this comes in. But the actual surface of itself, the composite wood, there's no issues there.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, also I'd like to ask, as long as we're talking about the Riverwalk redecking, what about the brick that are out there, brick paving? I mean, there's a lot of chipped and broken pieces that I like to see get repaired, because if we don't fix it, you could get water infiltration in there and everything else, which will unfortunately decay a lot more of the Riverwalk over a period of time. And I think other than just the decking itself, I think we need to look at all the stone and the bricks that we have as far as pavers out there.
Yeah, so we do look at that, and every year we bring in a contractor to replace bricks all along the Riverwalk. It's not as significant as item as this, so it's not its own line item. We just tackle that under maintenance itself. But every year we do replace bricks, because there is, for that very issue, whether it's tripping hazards. Again, it's 20 years old.
It's not just the tripping hazards. It's just like I remember years ago. Some of the council members didn't want to pay for concrete replacements on curbs, because unless it was all the way down and it affected the drainage, they didn't want to bother with it as long as the drainage flowed downhill. Unfortunately, we found that by not fixing that, we had a lot of water infiltration that eventually destroyed a lot of the underground part of the road. So I just think that other than just tripping hazard, we've got to take a look, not just safety, but again, to keep it looking good, because it's supposed to be a gem of our city. So want to make sure that it's kept that way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and I agree completely. I'd say it's not just tripping hazards, so I'm sorry if it came off that way. It is aesthetics as well. There are obviously those bricks, some of those bricks that have deteriorated, but continually every year we do come in and replace sections or pull out bricks and replace them, but thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Miller?
Mine was just a comment. On page 90 of the packet, there is a note in the narrative that says we will be at a deficit of $536. However, the debt service, the bond was paid off, so we will make $224,000 back quickly lowering our annual expense, so we should be positive by fiscal year 26-27. So we're really just looking at a year of a deficit, and then we'll be back up to speed according to Carolyn's narrative. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, go ahead.
Okay, circling back to developer donation projects, you can see we've got $25,000 in the budget for improvements to the Hickory Creek Farm. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's just updates that the tenant out there at the horse barn has requested, just to seal up the building a little bit better.
Yeah, those are just continual improvements that we'll make. It basically matches that rent that occurs there, but whether it's electrical issue, there's no outstanding issues. The roof is really the thing that took care of. But obviously with the property being a 1940s, issues pop up, and so we budgeted this amount just in case we run into a heating unit or whatever happens out there, that we are set to take care of that.
Okay. And next up is the East Beach, picnic pavilion. Alderman Cook, I don't know if you have seen this one here in the budget. This is something that was requested by Alderman Cook, but staff has obviously done some due diligence and taken a look at this and determined that this would be a benefit to add to that park, and that developer donations would be the appropriate place for that funding to come from. And so, Bill, I don't know if you want to give some additional context on that one as well.
Nothing really further to add on this. It just is it's a good candidate for that element, especially with the parking in front. It ties into Peterson Park, so it becomes a little bit more than just a small neighborhood park. We look at a little bit more of a community park, and it's a good setting for that type of element there.
Okay.
I agree. Jill, what kind of parking do we have in front of that beach? How many parking spots do we have in front of that beach?
There's probably 25 to 30 on-street parking.
Okay, so in other words, it's adequate enough to, like you say, as it draws more people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe we're resurfacing a parking lot at one of those beaches.
We are at West Beach
yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not under developer donations. That's one of our capital projects.
Yeah. But I just wanted to reiterate that we are reinvesting in the parks that are in the neighborhoods. They're important. Speaking of parks and neighborhoods, next up we have Cold Springs Park. This is a planning and design effort. And again, Bill can touch on that a bit. We did have some questions from Alderwoman Bassey about this one earlier today. So.
Sure. I don't know if you want to start with questions or you want me to just give an overview of that project. What would you prefer?
Why don't you give me an overview, and then I'll give you all my questions.
Okay, sure. So obviously Cold
Hopefully
Springs Park.
You'll answer them, though.
Okay. Cold Springs Park has been a discussion item before you more than a couple times. Was it last fall or was it 2 years ago? It all kind of blends together. I think it's 2 years. Two years ago, we had a significant discussion about a couple different options, whether it was disc golf was going to be involved, or if it was just the Land Conservancy and their efforts that we were going to pursue. At that point, council made it pretty clear that it was the Land Conservancy effort that we wanted to pursue, and they have started their efforts there. It's a slow process. Really, their goal has been to take out some of the invasive species, but not actually to design or make that park, I would say, more usable. It's more just clearing out some of the invasive species, but in terms of introducing or improving the path that goes throughout that park, in terms of connectivity to Ponca or to the Prairie Trail, those elements aren't included at all in their plan. I know we do, there's a lot of background that's been provided on Cold Springs Park in terms of like Hay and Associates or the original developer, all the information from Mr. Johnson that was provided to us. So where we've landed is, what do we do with that park? We kind of have this gem, this natural passive park gem that we think we've all agreed upon that should be the use, but what design ultimately do we land upon there, especially in order to submit to an OSLAD grant? We want to include the community and have a public meeting, and so that was part of what Hitchcock is proposing, is to have a community meeting, do initial design, do a schematic design, as well as the submission for the actual OSLAD grant itself by September 30th. The best analogy that I can almost give is I can draw a house, but I can't design a house. So for them to be able to design that park with the appropriate elements, take into account all the natural species, take into account any wetlands that are there, any parts that we want to stay away from, to have a comprehensive look at that, and I don't want to say put it to rest, but in some ways, really design this park so it meets what the intended use 2 years ago that we discussed, that it meets the neighborhood's wishes. That's the goal of bringing in Hitchcock and actually doing a design. Similar, I'm not going to say similar, but I think any good park, you bring in a park planner to really, I don't say any good park, that was maybe not the right words, but like Miller Point Park, there was a design process that occurred there, and you can see the result of what happened going through that design process. I would hope that we'd all agree that it's really turned into a gem for our downtown and for our city as a whole. And so it's then to, again, kind of go through this process where you engage the public, look at the designs, and agree on something that then hopefully we could submit for an OSLED grant. We haven't been able to submit for one of those in a while because of the nature of that and because of the design requirements of that. So that's why you see this. I will tell you that the number is actually $36,000. I got that formal proposal from Hitchcock, not 30, so it's a little bit more than that, but that's the background on Cold Springs Park. Go ahead.
And as a reminder, Hitchcock is the firm that we've been working with for our parks master planning process. And so the reason that Bill has been speaking with them is because they have obviously a familiarity with our park system, with the city council, and so therefore they would be a very good partner to work with on something like this if the city council opts to move forward.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
First of all, I don't see a need for a design plan at all. We were given these packages in October 16th, 2023, and in this packet there are affidavits from 7 different original homeowners with the agreement with the city and the developer that this land would stay in its natural state. I understand that we need to maintain it, but I don't really understand why there would be a need to bring in a consultant to tell us, cut that tree down, mow this area down, unless you have grand plans for this, which violates this whole thing.
I have that same thing here. There's not intentions to violate that. I have that same information that you have there. I heard what council said 2 years ago. I'm not looking to deviate from that. I think there's been a clear voice from the community at that point. But I think the introduction of maybe some nicer paths or some nicer connections, you could argue that you walk down McHenry Dam or Moraine Hills, and the nice limestone path that weaves through a very natural area is something that we should shoot for. It's not certainly going to be on that scale, but to have something like that in the middle of our town that also acts as a neighborhood connector and a prairie path connector, I think that's a huge asset to our city and to our park system.
Yeah, and I would add, if you think about the results of the Parks Master Planning process, again, we have not seen the final product on that, but staff has spoken extensively with Hitchcock. The City Council has seen sort of their preliminary guidance that they received back from the community, and that connectivity part comes up over and over again. It's a huge priority for the residents. At least that's the feedback that we received through that process. And so this is something that really could create some of those connections and really improve that experience for the residents.
And I understand. Sorry, Frank. I understand. I just think that it would be extremely easy. We don't necessarily need to bring in a consultant. You just pave it, add it on to the Prairie Trail where you've got the bike path, you can come in. I've walked that area many, many, many times. It has not been maintained, and all we need to do is spend $30,000 maintaining it versus hiring a consultant. So this is something that I think should be removed from the budget, and I think it's very hard to ask the residents to pay $30,000 for this.
So regarding the OSLOD grant, do you have to have a plan in place in order to get that grant?
There is
Yes.
a component for engineering architectural aspect to that.
Right.
And you have to follow it, and you have to pay the city is required to pay
It's a match.
50%.
It's a 50%
Right.
match.
Unless, of course, you're acquiring land, at which point you get a better deal.
I think the homeowners around here, I've talked to several of those homeowners, they would want to be involved in what goes on there and not just maintaining what we have. I think there's features that we could put in there, and it's not going to be disc golf. We understand that, but there's other, things that you could put inside that park that I think we're just missing, you know, and I know you care about parks. This is something that I would have thought you would have been all over saying, hey, this is great, it's at Cold Springs Park, let's come up with a plan and do it right.
And I'm going to agree with you slightly. I do think we should have the residents in the area involved, but again, $30,000 to do that. 36, thank you.
Yeah,
That makes it worse.
Thanks, David.
Just get cake and coffee, and then they'll all show up, and that won't even cost us $6,000. This one is a real hard pill for me to swallow. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
Okay. Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. So for $30,000, we're getting a design, $36,000. What's your guesstimate at the total project once we see a design?
The total project cost?
Yep.
Well, part of that is we define we can set a budget for what we want that to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big part of it.
But
If we want to include more or include less.
Just make a guesstimate.
A guess?
What do you think?
$750,000. $750,000.
And where's that money going to come from?
Well, that would come from developer donations, which is where the important match of and this is, again, this is not something I feel like you can hold me to. This, you just wanted a guess, that's a guess.
Yeah, I know.
We can narrow that down and say, we only want a bare minimum and just put this path in, and that's it. And that's all we want. And it could be, again, the path that goes around this over here, just for some context, the paved path that goes around the rec center down into Knox Park. We did get a grant for that. That was a $220,000 project. So just from to give you some perspective of what a paved path costs, and we're not even sure we can do paved path based on everything that Mr. Johnson had presented and the wetlands and everything else. It might have to be a crushed limestone path or something of that nature. That's all the more reason to bring in a consultant, an architect, and say, we're on top of this, and these are where you can do this type of path or this type of improvement, or this is not feasible.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Totally.
Alderman Santi?
Question or just a confirmation for Alderwoman Bassey. You wanted to put a blacktop path or a limestone path in there to connect it to the bicycle path, the walking path? You did say blacktop.
No, I never said blacktop. Why would we put a blacktop?
You said black, and limestone or blacktop, but...
Paved is not the same as blacktop.
Okay, so what material do you want to pave it with?
Paved is blacktop.
Okay, then I stand corrected. In my mind, paved does not equal blacktop.
Okay, but you want you want a path.
We could
design a path to go.
It could be done by mowing.
To go to the, but you want a path. So it's got to be limestone or something, right? You just don't want to have it on grass, do you?
I have been on hikes where you've had just grass. Yes.
And connected that way up that type of path to the bicycle pedestrian path.
We do have, I don't mean to interject, I apologize. We do have a well-maintained grass path through that park right now, similar nature to like Glacier Trails or Glacier Park. We mowed that, I think, 6 times last year. Maybe a little more. I'll check the records of exactly when we did, but we do tree trimming and mowing on a fairly regular basis out there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject. You have the floor.
No, and just to follow up for Alderman Passy, I'm not against that. I just think I just want to make sure if we do it, I want to make sure we do it right. And if you don't want to invest the 36, okay. But I mean, there's going to be some kind of investment for what you suggested.
I agree. There will be an investment, but we don't necessarily need to have it. Was that it?
No, sorry.
Oh.
Well, it's Alderwoman Miller's ward, so I think it's important for her to have some input. It's her ward, so that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
did you have your hand up? I didn't see it, sorry.
You're all the way down there.
Yeah, so. Alderman Glad.
I'm completed. I'm done, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to state that I wouldn't be in favor of connecting the path to that park. I mean, that park is a neighborhood park. I don't think you want to bring people from other communities and everything else to that neighborhood. I can remember that being a issue with, what is that, Patriot Estates. And they had talked about a path, behind the homes over there, and they didn't want it. They didn't want it connected. Why? Because they don't want people, in their backyards and everything. I mean, it's a neighborhood, it's a quiet neighborhood, and that's what they bought over there, and, here we are, we're trying to open it up with more traffic, into that park. It's a natural park that was designed to be a complement to, the neighborhood, and here we are trying to add extra traffic and everything else into there, and I think it would be detrimental to that neighborhood, and, I wouldn't be in favor of it at all.
Thank you. Alderman Miller?
So this is in my ward, and clearly when the disc golf conversation came to light again, I had quite a few conversations with the owners in that area, and I think I voiced their opinion quite well during that discussion. I think if I went back to those owners today, they would say, or they would welcome us spending $36,000 on a planning and design, because if I recall correctly, they always said, we don't want that, but what could be in there and what would complement the landscape. I have been in that park. It's a mess, as Alderwoman Bessie can speak to.
Within the last couple of weeks.
Yep. So it does need help. It needs improvement, and whether that's leave it like it is and just put a limestone walkthrough, I think conversations with the residents around it have talked about overgrowth, accessibility, parking, lighting, getting in and out and not having it off of DePaul Court and having more access off of Hay Street. So I think it's prudent for us to provide our residents with a study that gives us a launching point to have a conversation with them and say, this is what park designers recommend in mind of the original commitments that we're going to leave it as natural as possible, but we can improve it for everyone's use. So I think the residents there would appreciate us doing at least a plan and design and a review. They may say, no, that's not what we want, and we want their input, and that's part of that process. So given that it is my area, I think I could probably get 50 people at a meeting, and I think that would be great input for us all to have. And we may not do anything, but I think if we don't have it, we're at status quo, and I think there's improvements that could be made there.
Thank you. Go ahead, Alderman Bessie.
Okay, I have a counterpoint for you here. What if you get the 50 residents here before we even approve the study? Let's talk to them, get the 50 people, have a committee as a whole discussion, potentially saving the $30,000 if they say yes, okay, and if they say no, leave everything as is, at least we are bringing them in as it is their neighborhood. That's a compromise.
So I get that, but to what end? So the most vocal residents in that neighborhood are
I know their names.
Action-driven individuals.
Right.
To invite them to a futile conversation would frustrate them more than providing them a bigger picture for them to give input to. As you remember, with the disc golf conversation, they rallied very quickly and became very vocal. I think they all would respond well to a potential plan and then give us feedback. But to my point, when we heard them loud and clear, we don't want disc golf, and we all said to them, what do you want? I believe, if I recall correctly, the conversation, we don't know what we can do in there, we're not park planners. Was that not what they said? Yes. So, okay, we can all do the dance, but without a park planner involved, we're gonna probably have the same result under a different moment. So I just think it's good of us to provide that, bring them in, say, this is what the park planners came up with as a best, keep it natural but make it better, how do you feel? And get their response. Because they truly said, we don't know what we can do in there, we're not park planners. And I think that was verbatim. So if we want to repeat that experience, I can get them here. I don't want to repeat that experience. I think they expect more of us, the people who help make decisions, and I would stand on that stance. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to provide our constituents what they asked for. Bring us a plan.
Agreed. Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah. The problem winds up is we go and we're gonna hire somebody to do, planning and design. What are they gonna do? What they feel is the best use for that property? Well, that's not necessarily what's the best use for the residents that live around there and the residents of the city of McHenry. This is an outside firm. They're gonna tell you what's the best for their looks, okay? And what we need is, we need the input from the residents first before we have, and move forward, so that when we do hire somebody, we can tell them what our residents want. And they can plan it out according to what the residents want.
They handle that part of it.
Okay.
So we have the input from the residents. It's that report. It's meetings that we've had before.
And how old is that report?
2 years.
2 years. 2 years.
A year and a half, actually.
Sorry, I just want to jump in and say, part of the process with any consultant would be a public participation process. So similar to the way that Hitchcock has run our parks master planning process, there would be neighborhood outreach, there would be meetings, there would be charrettes, people would have an opportunity to see the potential designs, provide feedback before anything were to move forward. And so Hitchcock would handle that portion of that, and there would be a significant resident participation element.
So they would be talking to the residents before they even start the design? Mm-hmm. Okay. That would be fine with me?
And mind you, this is part of a budget process, so this will be coming back anyway, but just so you know, this is, so we don't have to get too deep in the weeds on this, in my opinion. So
at least we know what to expect.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. We know, no, I'm just saying. Suzanne, go ahead and keep it rolling.
Okay, so as the mayor just mentioned, this is at a $36,000 level. This is something that will be coming back before the city council for final approval before anything moves forward. So we can feel free to discuss this again at that time. Are there any other additional conversation or questions about any of these projects? All right, moving on. Talk a little bit about debt service. So this is a list of the outstanding bonds that the city has and is currently in repayment on. You can see we've got 3 that are scheduled to be repaid not in this fiscal year, but in the following fiscal year, and then the following one, so in 2027, let's just say. And then we have a couple that are still outstanding until 2035 for the rec center construction, and then police pensions won't be paid off until 2039. And that's it. Any questions on the bonds? Hearing none.
I would just add that, because it's an exciting moment, is that we paid off the Riverwalk
Yes.
first phase. So
Yes.
that no longer appears on
That-
here.
that has fallen off.
$224,000 annually. For me personally, that's an exciting moment. So.
Well, and as referenced earlier, that was paid out of TIF funding on an annual basis, and so we now recapture those funds to be able to reinvest in the TIF area.
And then we'll have less deficit.
One would hope, yes. All right, so moving on from there. Capital projects. So these are the funds through which we fund capital maintenance and replacement. We talked quite a bit about the actual projects that are budgeted for the upcoming fiscal year at our previous meeting. Starting with the Lakewood SSA fund, we're still paying off the 2004 sewer project through, and so that is the mechanism by which we collect those funds and pay that down. That is, again, we're in the final year of payment on that SSA. Next up, we have the Capital Maintenance and Replacement Fund. This is the fund that we have. This is the ComEd fund, as you will recall. The purpose of those funds is to fund the maintenance and replacement of our existing assets. That tax has been in place since June of 2022. We expect fund balance at the end of fiscal year 25-26 to be about $2.9, almost $3 million there that would be available for future use. And so this is one of those times when we pause and look to the council for direction. Again, so the proposed transfer is about $3,451,000 from the general fund for future projects. Some of that, as we discussed at the previous meeting, has already been allocated for projects in the upcoming fiscal year. So that leaves us with $2,970,000. One of the things that we had discussed as staff is trying to make sure that we have clear direction from the council on where those funds should be allocated. One of the options that we had discussed was potentially setting some additional funding aside for the Route 31 project. We know that we need about just over $7 million for that project, and right now we've got about $3.5 million in the bank that's stored away for that. And so this may be a good opportunity to start building up a little bit more of that funding. I checked in with Acting Director Adams earlier today. We anticipate that the utility relocation part of that project should start probably in the next fiscal year, so not this upcoming fiscal year. Russ, am I correct? And so, you know, we will not start paying out on that project for a couple of years, but to the extent that we can start socking some money away for when that time comes, it would be, we believe, to the city's benefit. But we wanted to give the city council the opportunity to discuss that and provide feedback.
My opinion is to put this towards the Route 31 project. I think we know that's a big nut that we're going to have to pay for here soon. I think it's just the right thing to do is put that and allocate it towards Route 31 project, my opinion. Alderman Bassey.
Is the $7 million firm for Route 31?
I don't know that anything is firm for Route 31. I feel like that number keeps moving. IDOT, and Director Adams, you can hop in if I get this wrong, but IDOT has been reallocating some of the kind of, the things are moving around, but our bottom line total at this point has not changed and is about $7.2 million.
$7.2 million? And we now have 3.5 sitting in an interest-bearing account, or what's the interest rate? Sorry.
I don't know the exact, but it's in the 4% range.
It's at least 4?
Yes.
Okay, good, because if not, I can hook you up with 4. Okay, I agree. I think if we've got an extra money, we're going to have to come up with a minimum of another 3.5. So why not just put it there now?
Yeah, one of the additional considerations, and Director Lynch, I don't know if you want to jump in on this, but so we've got, as I mentioned, $2,970,000 that would be available right now. We do have, obviously, the Route 31 project that's out there, but then we have additional capital needs throughout the city, and so, you know, there may be some world in which the City Council opts to use some of this money for Route 31 and, you know, put some of it in another account so that it's more available for those types of larger projects that pop up.
Can we do just a million?
Alderman Miller, go on.
Yeah, so this fund is for those projects, so I would leave it here, but we can't absolutely earmark it for Route 31 or another project. That's kind of what we were looking for, some feedback.
Alderman Miller.
So I've sat on council for a few years now, and every year something breaks and something needs to be replaced, and we go through budget amendments for unforeseen things that happen. So I think it would be prudent to earmark most of this, like maybe $2 million, and leave that extra almost $1 million available for amendments or adjustments as they come forth. I know the last one that surprised me to no end was when we needed a new mix master out at the sewer treatment plant. And it was like $700,000 for the pieces of the mix master, and I was like, okay. So things happen, things break as we grow. I think our stuff's wearing out and being old. So although I would love to put the whole 2.9 in there, I don't think that's prudent. I think take 2 and earmark it and leave 1 as our what if fund.
Alderman Gleb?
Yeah. You know, it's nice to say that, well, we've got all this money and, you know, like our administrator said, you know, it's gonna be several years before we need to pay it out. I don't wanna see that money just sitting there. Yeah, it's nice to have reserves, but, I don't know if we need to keep all that in reserves. Why don't we transfer some of it to the road projects and get more roads done in the next 2 years, let's say. And if things get tight in another 2 or 3 years, maybe we skip a year of roads if we have to, in order to meet our goals as far as what we need for the improvements on 31. But at least we don't have that money sitting, and maybe we won't need to cancel the road program in 3 years down the road for a year, and we'll get both done, rather than having that money sit. Let's face it, the money sits, it might collect a little bit of interest, but the costs of those roads may go up over the next 2 or 3 years. We don't know. You know, nobody has a crystal ball. Whether something's going to break down or not, we don't know. But, I mean, can we just say that we just have that money sit there and lay there and collect interest and not do improvements that we can for the city? And I think you'd find a lot of residents throughout the whole city that would see that their roads are going to be done a year or 2 earlier. And I just think that to some extent we ought to look, maybe not take the whole thing and throw it in there, but I think a decent portion should be allocated for, again, more road money. Between that and possibly getting more road and bridge, you know, we could possibly have the next two years to where we have a road project that we haven't done. We had the 1 year where we had to bond it out 20-some-odd years ago, and it took forever to pay it off. Well, now we may have some money to where we can do a big project like that and not have to worry about bonding all that money out and having to pay it off, because that just slowed up the projects or the road projects down for a couple of years before we got back into it. So that's my idea on it.
Alderman Santee?
Both are very good ideas from Alderman Glab and Alderwoman Miller. I guess I'd have to putting money towards Route 31 and getting to that 7 million mark as soon as we can, and keeping a certain amount. I don't know if it's 970, you know, almost $1 million, you know, for possibly then going for roads for you know, adding into a year. My question about this fund is, how much, what's the estimate of what do we receive in this fund annually?
Just over $1 million.
Okay, so every year we're getting $1 million into it, so now that, you know, one more year out, that $970,000 is going to be almost close to $2 million again. And then the council at that time can, you know, once again move some of that money around. But I just, you know, want to close and eliminate that gap for Route 31 as soon as possible. So we know as that construction is going, nothing on the city's end is going to slow it up by any kind of, you know, late payments or anything that we have to do for moving to utilities, that sort of thing. That's my thoughts. Thanks.
Russ, what if IDOT comes back and they've already increased the price once?
Well, so these are all EOPCs. That's what I want to stress right now. Like to Alderwoman Bassey's question earlier, we don't know what the actual cost is until the bids are let and we have bids from contractors. That's the actual project cost. with a project this big, it's tough to say how much the engineers are trying to cover their behinds with the numbers that they're throwing at us. So the bid letting currently is slated for January of 2026, which would give us time to really, when we're budgeting for fiscal year 26, 27, have a better foundation for what our actual costs are going to be. Right now, we're just trying to plan with the best information we have, which isn't all that good, but it's the best we have.
And continues to change.
And so that's my concern, is let's say they come back at 9 million, and then what? So, Alderman Bessie.
And we don't have choices. I mean, we have to pay this bill. So.
That's the beauty of it.
Right. I mean, we have to pay it, or else. So, I agree with Alderwoman Miller, absolutely. And if everyone's not comfortable, I like the 2 million, but maybe just we leave a balance of 1.5 million and take 1.4 and put it in. I think it's really important to start saving as much money as possible, because you're telling me 7.7 million, it could be 9 million. When do we anticipate writing out the first check? 3 years down the road? Now?
We don't know. I
Well,
mean, look
that's
at Woodstock.
just
So
it.
Woodstock just came in at 14 million or something like that. 16? $16 million for their Route 47
Start
project.
saving.
What was their original budget? I mean, it probably was a lot less than that. That
Okay.
just seemed like a crazy number. So we could always transfer out of this account, Carolyn, like let's say we actually get a final number from IDOT, and let's say it's less than 7 million. We
Which
could
is
always
never gonna
transfer the funds in the next year, calendar year.
So the funds in this account are set aside for capital projects.
Right.
So they're not used for anything else
Correct.
anyway, so they.
So we could always transfer out of it. We're just
Correct.
allocating it towards Route 31 for the
Yes.
time being, which is what I
Mhm.
suggest.
Correct.
And then once we find out more dollars, what's going to be needed for Route 31 project, then we can make a decision from there whether we transfer it to a different account or whatever the case may be, or a capital project or whatever. That's my opinion. Just because there's so many unknowns, and I don't want to be caught where we don't have the money to do a project.
Exactly, which would result in what? Doing a bond?
Yeah.
Right, which we don't want to do. So I think we need to, and I'm sorry, Alderman Glab, but we can't give it to the roads quite yet. But it would require a bond to cover it for us. So I think we need to allocate the extra 2.9, at least a significant portion of it, into Route 31 project. Do you agree, Alderwoman Miller?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have another question, though. Are you done, Alderwoman Bessie?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so just so I'm clear in my head, because I'm old and I don't like to spend money that's not in my checking account. We contract for all these services for Route 31 and we pay the bill, or IDOT contracts and we pay IDOT?
It's an IDOT contract. IDOT will pay the contractors, and then they will invoice us for our share of the work.
So we're not contracting with anyone.
We
We're
are
just getting
we are paying
a
IDOT.
invoice from IDOT that says you owe this.
Correct.
And will it come in, thank you, will it come in pieces, or does it come in one invoice at the end of the project and we have to write a really big check?
Put your arms up.
We don't know?
We don't know.
And if we don't know, I'm good with that, because of course, that makes a difference to me if we need to have all the money put in the bank and be able to write that hopeful $7 million or less check, or if we get an invoice along the way, now utility year is done, write the $1 million check, and now engineering is done, write the $1 million check. That gives us time to scrimp and save. But
I think it's very unlikely that we're going to receive one lump sum bill at the very end of the project. That being said, how frequently or in what increments we're going to be invoiced, I don't know. I don't know if IDOT knows. We're still very early on. We don't even have a firm construction schedule. We have a proposed schedule, but I'll believe it when a bid is awarded and we've actually got some firm numbers to work off of and the name of the contractors who are doing the work.
Well, and we do have, we obviously have some bonds that roll off in the next year, but not significant debt numbers. I mean, it's $300,000 is what we'll start saving on the 3 bonds that roll off, but, yeah. It's a really big check if it comes with one invoice, and we don't get a grace period on that, right? It's like, write the check.
They're gonna build the road either way.
What did you say? We don't get like a 30-day, 60-day. We probably got.
They'll probably come here and pick it up. No, I'm just kidding.
They'll probably be looking for an electronic transfer at the day of receipt.
Alderman Cook, go ahead.
Well, if it's anything like an STP project, once the it's completed, that's when everybody gets paid. You know, I think it's all one lump sum type, but I don't know. I don't know about a 3-year project, you know. I mean, we're talking about, you know, something that's 6 months or, you know, that they've done these projects. But I would think they would do it in thirdsies. You know, if it's a 3-year project, first year you get this amount and all. But I'd rather see the money sitting in the bank and we're prepared for it.
I think the financial responsible thing to do is to put
As much as,
this
you
towards
know,
roads.
I'd like to have roads done and all
Route
that,
31.
I want the backup. I want it there in the bank, waiting.
And we have done a really great job in the last 5 years on the roads. When we approved the road expenditure earlier, the memo, of course, indicated that we've done 40 miles, 30% of our roads in the last 5 years. So we've made good progress at the funding levels that we've been able to give to the roads so far. Again, I want to see that continue, but I don't want anybody knocking on our door and saying, you owe me $7 million and we don't have it in the bank.
Correct. That would not, we would not look good at that point, in so many ways. Any
And
other?
Mayor Jett would still be mayor, so he'll write the excess.
Yeah, no.
Home phone number for Mayor Jett is?
So, Janelle, can I share that? Is that all right?
Based on the whole story.
So in 2022, in Woodstock, their number was 6.4 million, and it came in at 16 million. So now tell me what you want to do. So I don't think we take any chances. I think we put this money and allocate it towards Route 31, 100% of it, and then let's make a decision later on when we get more information from Russ and go from there.
So Woodstock got an estimate in '22 for $6 million,
That's what we're seeing, yeah.
and the project came in at $16 million in '25?
Just recently. It was just in an article.
So when was our last estimate of 7? That was pretty recent, right?
It was last year.
It was in 2024.
2024.
So that means it's 17. Yeah, I was gonna say, it should be up to 9 million then.
That's the concern I have, to be honest with you. And prices are increasing everywhere. I think the right thing to do is just to put it towards Route 31 project, and then we can decide what we're gonna do once we get more information from IDOT.
So I don't mean to be like an idiot down here. Where is IDOT getting this money? When the state of Illinois has like no money, where is IDOT getting the money to do their part of the project?
That's a bigger discussion.
I mean, I know this isn't our decision, but if anybody's smarter than me and they can tell me that, I would appreciate that knowledge.
Government.
I mean, 'cause I guess I've lived long enough to know that Route 53, the extension, was approved forever, and they never got funding, so we still have farm fields out there. I don't want to be moving all this money, and I get it, they cut down all the trees, they've got all the right-of-ways, they're far along, but they were that far along with 53 20 years ago, and it's still farm fields.
IDOT does not have Route 53. That's the tollway authorities that has Route 53 nowadays. That's changed a long time ago, and of course, unfortunately, over the years, they sold off a lot of properties that were in that fix. That route is dead. I mean, in a way, maybe that helps us, because God helps us, if we'd have had all that traffic coming in off of 31 there at FAP 420, I don't think we'd ever been prepared for that. And, you know, as far as the money goes, yeah, all right, let's leave it in there for now, but, you know, let's take and do some research as far as, okay, Woodstock might have a big jump, but what did they have done and what kind of problems did they wind up with compared to what our projects need to be done?
I'll talk to Russ
and
tomorrow and see what we can
that
dig
could make
into
a huge difference there, why, you know, it's not apples to apples, you know, so we need to see exactly what happened over there.
And we'll do that. All right?
And then we could transfer the money.
Right. So we can figure that out later, but for the time being, that's my suggestion.
Okay, I think we have our direction, so thank you for that, lively discussion, we appreciate that. Putting it in the bank.
And we'll get about $256,000 annually in interest if we take that.
Right, and obviously, you know, to Carolyn's point, that account is, the use of the monies in that account is determined by the city council. So if for some reason there is something that breaks, to Alderwoman Miller's point, in the future, and we do have a little bit of additional information from IDOT in terms of the ultimate cost of that project, the city council has the ability to reallocate those funds to whatever need is identified in the future.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. So the other tax that we have out there is our tax on natural gas, our NICOR tax. The City Council approved that, and it began in June of 2023. Currently, we have no projects budgeted in that fund. Again, those funds are dedicated for new projects, and so, you know, as we're looking to the future, there will be a funding source there for us. Right now, we've got a fund balance of just over $1 million in that fund, budgeted for the end of fiscal year 25-26. Excuse me. These last two funds that are mentioned here, the Capital Improvements Fund and the Capital Equipment Fund, those are the way that we used to fund capital projects, and so those funds will be phasing out once the projects that are outstanding are completed. So that should be happening at the end of fiscal year 25-26. Then the fund balance of $329,000 in the Capital Improvements Fund and $38,000, almost $39,000 in the Capital Equipment Fund. Those will then go back into the Capital Maintenance and Replacement Fund for future capital projects, just funded through a different source. Any additional questions there? All right. Moving on to our enterprise funds. We talked a little bit about water and sewer, obviously, at the prior meeting back in March. Moving on to our capital development fund, one of the biggest expenses that you will see us talking about in this and the following fund are the design costs for an additional water plant. This is something that's been under discussion for a number of years and has been identified as a expansion to our water system that will be required in the future. And so we're looking at budgeting $250,000 out of the capital development fund for the design of that water plant to be built at some point in the future. The capital development fund then has an estimated fund balance at the end of fiscal year 25-26 of $6.1 million after that expense. That is where the costs for any future build-out of a Water Plant 5 would come from. So we do have the money set aside to do that project in the future, and obviously you'll be hearing quite a bit more about that before anything moves forward. So any questions on that one? Okay. Moving on to the Marina Operations Fund. This is the marina operation that we have a lease agreement with a third party to run. The revenues are budgeted at $31,500 and expenses at $35,000. We have a fund balance estimated at the end of fiscal year 25-26 of $508,000. Any questions there? Moving on to our internal service funds, we have our employee insurance and risk management funds. These are obviously where we fund employee insurance and risk management out of. So those are our insurance funds, and so they are what they are. The revenues going into the employee insurance fund are budgeted at $4.2 million. Expenses budgeted at $4.2 million for the upcoming fiscal year. And then for risk management, we've got revenues of $1.15 and expenses of 1.14. So we try to keep those just pretty consistent throughout the years. The last of our internal service funds is the IT fund. This one is a little bit more exciting. So you can see we've got some projects coming up in the upcoming fiscal year that are in the budget totaling $440,000. This is money that is kind of collected from the general fund for each of the departments based on their needs on an annual basis, transferred through to the IT fund, and then used to fund the projects you see here. I don't know, Chief, if there's anything here that you want to highlight from an IT perspective.
No.
One of the things that I think is important, I think just for the City Council to understand, is you will see the costs of IT continuing to increase, and it's not just because everything is getting more expensive, which is the case, but, I think the City of McHenry, as well as other municipalities, are becoming more and more dependent on technology as we move into the future. And not only that, but I think we have made a concerted effort over the past few years to do as much security hardening as we can and prepare for disaster recovery and those types of things. And so a lot of these projects that are in here, including the one that's actually called Disaster Recovery Project for $70,000, that is all in the interest of making sure that our systems are more and more secure. And there's been a significant effort on behalf of the staff to move everything that we can into the cloud. And so you will see, we just approved our Laserfiche, that's moving to the cloud. We've got community development potentially moving to the cloud. We've got some of our HR software that is becoming cloud-based. And so, again, that's in the interest of, making that it's more user-friendly as well as more secure.
Question I got is community digital sign?
So that is the sign that you see on 120. It's very, very old. It's becoming problematic. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we're starting to see failures in it. We've had to repair and maintain it. It's basically at end of life. So we budgeted money to replace pretty much the existing sign and the existing footprint, just the digital component of it.
What is it, about 12, 14 years old? Is it?
Director Hobson, do you recall?
Yeah, it's about 10 years old, 11 years old. 2014, I believe, is when we installed it.
2014? We're already looking to replace it. Wow. Okay.
Well, in 2014, that would make it 10 years old. Most of our computer hardware, we're replacing between the 3 and 5 year mark. It's outdoor in the elements. It just takes a beating.
You're overloading it, Bill. Take it easy.
It's because we have so many amazing events that happen here in the city of McHenry that we need to promote.
The sign is a focal point for the community. Obviously, if you've been here long enough, you remember we used to go out there and change the letters on the old sign, and people really look to that sign for shared information on behalf of the city. So we wanted to make sure that we were maintaining it.
I was just going to comment. I think I helped with changing out the letters a few times.
Go ahead. Alderman Davis.
Yeah, there's a couple of these where I wouldn't mind and Frank, I think you would probably be with me on this.
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Well, I mean, just to understand some of these, what we're actually getting. So your virtual host servers and storage, what are we actually getting for that? So just a little more breakdown.
We're getting one server and 5 virtual servers and all the storage. So this is part of our replacement plan for all of our servers and virtual servers. So this year, we have $175,000 in replacement. This is also part of the reason why we're migrating so many of our products to the cloud, because as we start to migrate to the cloud, we can lessen the servers that we maintain in-house, which lessens some of our capital costs.
Well, that's why I asked, because
this is your wheelhouse. These have a 5-year shelf life before they're replaced typically.
So when you say virtual, so are you talking you're a frame and how many?
Super technical right now.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you could go 100 different ways with this. That's why I'm just trying to figure out what we're getting for $175,000.
These are really, this number would be a lot higher without the switches we're making. And it does go to our disaster recovery too. When we start migrating to cloud, we're saving down the road capital expenses on servers that we're going to be able to retire and not have to replace. But it also allows the city of McHenry to become mobile, meaning that if this building were destroyed in a disaster, within 24 to 48 hours, we can set up shop pretty much anywhere with our
entire fine structure, police department, the CD, all these services that we're moving to the cloud, that's part of our disaster recovery project. That's what we're trying to go. This has been 4 years in the making. We've been biting off a piece of this at a time.
Yeah, I'm just curious,
so-
like, that was one of the questions I had is, what is the DR project? What is that?
Yeah, it's a broad term for disaster recovery, so that's exactly what it is. A tornado comes and takes this building out, the city of McHenry
No,
is the
that's
body.
not what I asked. I know what DR is. I've done plenty of DR stuff. I mean, for this line item, what are we getting?
This is a reoccurring expense that
Okay.
the IT fund has had every year as we slowly migrate. And so I would be more than happy to give you some of the further details off the record, but I don't
Yeah,
want to
that's
share
all I'm looking
some of
for,
them
just
for
to
security
understand
reasons in a public meeting.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
makes sense.
Yeah, I don't need them now. I would just try to dig into these a little bit more.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to.
Cool. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on that. You keep mentioning cloud, and I tell my clients all the time, keep a hard copy. Cloud's fine, hard copy. I know it's totally different from your servers versus
Yeah.
laptop. But is there any hard copies of anything?
Yes. So in the world that we live in right now, a lot of our products are backed up to 2 different cloud locations now. They're also backed up physically in 2 physical locations as well. It's just a matter of the timing for each level of backup. Some backups happen in a short period of time locally, and then they get transferred to the cloud at a later time date. So we do store locally as well.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Good? Okay, moving on. This is our fiduciary funds. These are essentially, I wouldn't say pass-through funds, but these funds are not available for use because they are held for specific purposes, including pre-tax medical accounts for our employees, retained personnel for when development is happening, the revolving loan fund that the City Council has talked about a couple of different times over the past year. So again, those funds are available for local businesses. The police pension fund, no one's touching that except the police. And then if I go back up here to developer escrow funds, so we talk about that from time to time. Just when those developments happen, the city does collect money for future public improvements. Any questions there? Okay. That is the end, my friends. So provided that we've given you all the information that you need, April 16th, the final budget will be going out to the council for your reading pleasure, and then we will be back on April 21st for the annual budget meeting, of course, to the extent that you have questions or need additional information on any of these items in the intervening time. Staff is here to answer those questions for you. So, thank you.
Good job.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any staff reports? Russ, go ahead.
I know it came up forever ago, but the Maple Avenue PDI,
I was going to bring that up.
it was 35 when we did the last analysis, so without committing to anything, I would say it's fairly safely at the bottom for this next round of assessments, so it should be.
So was that for 35 from the top?
Yeah, out of 100, it was a 35, so it was towards the bottom. Apparently, there were a lot of worse roads to get to.
There were 30s.
There were a lot of 30s and 20s.
Any other staff reports? All right. For mayor report, I actually texted Mayor Turner in Woodstock to ask him about the Route 47 project, and he said it's 100% due to inflation. It was all labor and materials. Went from $6.2 million to $16 million frickin' dollars. So once again, I think we made the right decision, and he pretty much said, start putting more money away. So I think we need to be prepared that it's going to be a lot. So.
Well, and I'm grateful for the information that this isn't our checkbook, that this is IDOT. Again, it's easy to budget when it's your checkbook and you can write checks as you go. But given that this is a project, Dawn, you owe us, that just changes my whole focus on how much money we need in the bank. because we don't know when it's gonna be done. And then they're just gonna show up with an invoice, and poor Carolyn's gonna, like, drop dead if we don't have the money in the bank.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, so, thank you to Mayor Turner for getting back to me right away on that, but there you go. So that's all I got. Any council reports? See none. At this time, we're gonna go into executive session, so I'd ask the public, please exit the room, to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee, 5 ILCS 120-2C1. Looking for a motion to approve, to go into executive session. Alderman Santee.
I'll make that motion.
Second, Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey,
Yes.
Alderman Davis,
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.